Attack on Titan is one of my favorite anime of all time. Much like Naruto, it's a series all about confronting the endless cycle of hatred and war in the world. In Naruto, it tries to teach us that humans aren't too unalike, and that despite what others say, we can learn to understand each other if we really try. We can care, and we can defeat this endless cycle. Attack on Titan is more pessimistic though in its view of the world, mirroring the words of the Team Fortress 2 sniper: as long as there's two people left on the planet, someone is gonna want someone dead. The same is true here. While Naruto rejects Pain's philosophy, Attack on Titan actually embraces it. And while Naruto is all about the villains becoming more like the hero, Attack on Titan is, spoiler alert for anyone who somehow doesn't know this yet, all about the hero becoming more like the villains. In the end, the story of Naruto and Attack on Titan are the same type of story, but the difference is the perspective we see it from. And maybe that's why Attack on Titan is so sad. But what happens if these two philosophical points were to meet and clash within the heart of the same person? Well, why don't we try and figure that out? Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. This was your standard mission for Team 7. Get in, grab the target, get out. Or, well, they had thought it to be so. As it turns out, it would be a lot more complicated, at least for Naruto. You see, their mission was to find the rogue house cat that an old woman had lost. Seemed easy enough, right? That's what they thought. That was until they heard sudden radio silence. "I think I see it," Naruto's voice said over the radio. There was sudden static. "Naruto?" Kakashi asked. "Naruto, what happened?" There was no response. "Sasuke? Sakura, come in. Can either of you hear me?" "I hear you," Sasuke said. "I'm here, Kakashi-sensei," Sakura said. "Do either of you have eyes on Naruto?" Kakashi asked. There was a slight bit of silence. "No, we don't," they said. Kakashi let out a sigh. "I'll be there in a second. We need to find Naruto before we continue this mission." "Do you think Naruto's in trouble?" Sakura asked. "No, surely not. It's likely that he's just having technical difficulties." Kakashi stood from his position and let out a sigh, beginning to walk in the direction where they had last seen Naruto. Naruto, on the other hand, was wondering why he was hearing sudden radio silence. As he walked a bit forward, he noticed that the trees and forest looked a little different. The forest wasn't as green. It seemed to slowly fade into a vignette of subtle sepia on top of the green he had known. As if suddenly the midday he was in had been replaced by evening time, just prior to sunset. What he didn't know was that it had. You see, in the distance, a purple-skinned man watched on from the distance, looking down on Naruto from his perch. The Rinnegan shining in his forehead, Fu couldn't help but wonder what might come next. As Naruto walked deeper into this strange new forest, he found himself before a massive tree, of size and proportion beyond that he'd ever witnessed before. Well, at least not in this point in his life. The tree's size wasn't too unlike a god tree, but Fu knew better. This was something far different, but equally horrific. Naruto, astounded and amazed by the tree, drew closer to it. There was a deep hollow at its base, the roots spreading open like the curtains to a stage. It was opening night and the show was set to begin. Naruto drew closer to the hollow and looked in. It descended into the ground deeply, so far down that Naruto couldn't see the bottom. "Wowzers, wouldn't want to fall in that," he said with a bit of a snicker. And yet, a bird of black feather, a crow, a harbinger of war and death, a feast maker on the flesh of the dead, circled above in the sky. Its eyes spotting Naruto, it felt for a short moment as if its actions were not its own. Fu spotted this and raised a brow. "So you still exist in this world, don't you?" he said with a smile. "I had hoped so." That bird quickly flew down and smashed headlong into Naruto's back, causing him to lose his footing and fall into the hole below. He screamed as he fell. As he descended into what felt like forever, his body bounded off the deep roots. His arm, his leg, his shoulder, his spine. He felt his bones shattering as he struck it. He would have screamed if only his head weren't the next thing to strike hard. There was the feeling of warmth from the back of his head spreading outward as his entire body began to feel numb. His vision was gone. He couldn't see. Not like there was anything there to see in the darkness. Finally reaching the bottom, he found himself plunging into water. Wounded and blind, Naruto felt as though his death was at hand. All because of one mistake. His dream, everything he had faced, every failure and accomplishment now mattered little. This was the end of his story. As he floated below the waves, a pool of pink extended from behind his head as he fell deeper. Unconsciousness and a deep cold were taking over. There was no more air. His body was enveloped by the thick coldness of the water, yet his sixth sense detected something below him. What it was, he didn't know, but whatever it was, it felt cold, as though it were death incarnate coming to salve his wounds. It slithered about him like a snake, yet it had arms and legs like a centipede. The hands of this creature seemed to slowly move over the break in his spine, as well as the cranial fracture from which it felt like his brains were spilling out. He felt the coldness all down his spine as it tried to attach to him. The moment the two of them connected, he felt a sudden boiling heat arise from within. He felt empowered, as though he were struck with a bolt of lightning. What happened next was beyond his comprehension. As Fu hovered there, he sensed a sudden pressure in the air, a heat, and an energy of formidable stature arise from what seemed to be nothing. A moment later, there was a muffled roar. Suddenly, that roar became deafening as a large humanoid form shot up from below ground, ripping the tree up by its roots. Fu seemed to pull back a bit. Despite his incredible power, he knew that the creature he was looking at was not one to be messed with. He let it tire itself out as it normally would. It was not of sound mind right now. Its pilot was asleep after all. It was moving only based on animal instinct, the strange creature that had bonded being all that was in control. As enough time passed, the creature fell to the ground, the heat and steam destroying the body out from under it, turning it to ash and wind. Naruto, slowly coming to his senses, felt strange. He had yet to realize that he could see. His mind had forgotten that his arms, legs, and shoulder had been shattered as they now bore no semblance of any wounds. He was hot and wet, as though crawling out of his mother's womb for the first time. There was no other way to describe the feeling he had now. As he pulled himself up to the top of a mossy rock, his eyes opened as he beheld the city, a towering guardian from the future, laying now in ruin, reclaimed by the very forest that he now found himself in. This had once been a utopia, it seemed, and now it was nothing more than a grave marker for the dreams of an entire culture. How sad, how tragic. War, Naruto said under his breath as he began to fade once more into darkness. My war, a new voice within his head spoke. What happened after this was not known to Naruto. As soon as he opened his eyes though, he saw three faces sitting above him. Kakashi was close by, Sakura seemed to be praying over him, and Sasuke was standing in the distance, keeping his eye on the surroundings, though his eye was not turned back toward Naruto. "Oh, Naruto," Sakura said as she hugged him. "Thank goodness, I thought you were dead." "What happened to you?" Kakashi asked. "Why are you so damp?" Naruto sat forward and rubbed his head. Looking around and down at his body, he didn't know. "I'm not quite sure," he said. Kakashi continued to check him over for wounds or signs of trauma. Checking the dilation of his eyes, he detected no sign of concussion. "It seems as though you're okay," Kakashi said. "You look like you fell in a lake, but there's no water anywhere near here. Are you sure you don't know what happened?" Naruto thought hard about it. He saw glimpses of things he couldn't comprehend. A tree and a city. For a second, he saw the world from the sky, as if he were flying, or as if he were simply extremely tall. He flinched as soon as he heard the ear-ringing roar in his own head. "I don't remember anything, except for some strange dreams," he said. Kakashi took a deep breath and let it out with a slight sigh. "I think it's best that we let it go for now," Kakashi said. "We should probably get you home. Maybe it'll help you remember what happened." "Should we take him to the hospital?" Sasuke asked. "If we're not sure if he's okay, perhaps it's best that someone watch him." Sakura looked at Kakashi. "I agree with Sasuke." Kakashi looked to Naruto. "What do you think? Should we take you to the hospital? If only just to receive peace of mind." Naruto thought about it. He really hated the hospital. "I don't know. Please, Naruto?" Sakura asked. Naruto looked into Sakura's eyes and saw the pain and fear there. His shoulders began to droop as he let out a sigh. How could he say no to her? "Okay, fine. We can go to the hospital, but I'm not doing any shots." Kakashi rolled his one visible eye. "No shots. Got it." And so the quartet walked Naruto to the hospital. Kakashi explained why he would like to admit Naruto for tests and observation, and at first they seemed confused by the story Kakashi was weaving. Allowing him to admit Naruto, they assigned him to a room. Team 7 stayed nearby as they began doing various tests on Naruto, from MRI to X-ray. To their surprise, despite Naruto not really appearing to have any injuries, he did display a strange growth along his spine that reached from the base of his brain all the way down to his tailbone. "What is it, Doc?" Kakashi asked. The doctor shakes his head. "I have no clue. Do you suppose it's malignant?" The doctor looked back. "Cancerous? I don't know. I've never seen anything quite like this. It's very uniform. Tumors tend to grow in sporadic ways. This is almost a perfect tube. We should run some tests on it." Kakashi nods. He then goes to tell Naruto, Look, I know I told you no shots, but we need to have the doctors take a sample of something. Naruto sat there with a look of annoyance on his face. No, you told me no shots. Kakashi sighed. This could be life or death, Naruto. I said no, Naruto said. Kakashi then spoke. Look, Naruto, if you're not healthy, you can't be a ninja. This caught Naruto's attention. If you're not a ninja, you can't be Hokage. Naruto thought about it. Just one shot, right? Kakashi shrugged. As far as I know, they only want to get a biopsy for one thing, but they might need other stuff. Regardless, you're not in a place to bargain, Naruto. You either do what the doctors say or you can't be a ninja. It's just one of those suck it up moments. Naruto's head bobbed forward in disappointment. Fine, just one. The doctors entered Naruto's bedroom and rolled him over on his side. Kakashi sat there looking at Naruto while he was on his side. He took Naruto's hand. Just keep your eyes on me. It'll be over in a second. The doctor pressed the syringe in. Naruto's entire body tensed. Not only did it hurt, but the placement of the needle going into the area of the spine was very unpleasant. But they managed to get what they wanted from it. Naruto was allowed to lay on his back again after this. Naruto was obviously very cranky about this, but they decided to let him have some time by himself with access to a television. The doctors took the sample back to be checked out. The results would eventually come back and surprise everyone, including Team 7. The good news is that it's not some sort of cancerous tissue, but what it is could be very concerning. What is it? Kakashi asked. Well, the tissue we took possessed DNA that was different from Naruto's. It's a foreign body. Kakashi sat there for a moment as his mind worked over the possibilities. You mean it's a long parasite? The doctors nodded. Something to that effect. Whatever it is attached to his spine. That could explain why Naruto is having cognitive issues, such as memory. Could it explain why he was so wet when we found him? The doctor thought about it for a moment. It theoretically could. Perhaps it caused him to have a seizure, which is why you found him prone. His inability to remember the events before, strange dreams, all of that could be symptoms that this thing is messing with him neurologically. And as for finding him wet, it's possible that he had been sweating. You'd be amazed at how much water is stored in the human body. To that end, we have him on fluids. The strange thing about it, though, is that we've detected no increase of white blood cells around this thing. So whatever it is, it's maneuvered around his immune system. Do you have any idea what kind of parasite it could be? Kakashi asked. The doctor shook his head. We've been running its data alongside all the data available to us in regards to known species of parasites. There's no match. Whatever he has is either something very new or what? Kakashi asked. Very old. You suspect it could be an old parasite? Kakashi asked. The doctor let out a sigh. There's a theory that this is an older parasite. It's no secret that things used to be bigger a long time ago, and the size of this parasite is unusual among the animal kingdom. Generally, things like to become more efficient. They become smaller and cut out functions they don't need anymore based upon the living conditions presented to them. It's a common form of adaptation, but this creature has displayed no signs of adaptation in a way that makes it more efficient. If you care to think of it like this, imagine the difference between the Rinnegan and your Sharingan. The Sharingan is descended from the Rinnegan, but has none of the powers that a Rinnegan would have. Instead, it tailor-makes its powers in accordance with the needs of the user. The Rinnegan possesses many abilities that come standard, and generally one special ability. This is all based on the information left behind by the Sage of Six Paths. But the Sharingan does not possess those abilities, and in return grants access to 2 special abilities instead of 1. The Sharingan has cast-off abilities not needed, or abilities that can't be accessed by people without the unique chakra type of the Sage. And so, in return, it grants access to something more potent, in the form of the Mangekyo Sharingan. 2 unique abilities and a Susanoo, the latter of which has never been displayed as a power of the Rinnegan, and something more in line with the Kunitsukami spoken of by the sage's son, Ashura. Kakashi listened, understanding what this meant. This is a common form of adaptation. Given that you don't need or can't use such abilities, the Sharingan adapted to using more focused abilities. That's how adaptation generally works. Cut out what can or hasn't been often used and replace it with something more focused. That's how parasites survive. It's the kind of adaptation that allows for the difference between human survival in strange climates. A natural ability bestowed upon us by God to survive in a world that actively seeks our destruction. Adapt or die. And despite the lack of adaptation that this parasite displays, it seems to be strong and powerful. And this tells me that the parasite is very possibly old. An ancient type of bug that has survived in a secluded area. Likely a type that doesn't require human connection to propagate. Why it even remains a parasite if it doesn't need a human, I don't know. But whatever it is, it's not common. What do you recommend we do? Kakashi asked. The doctor thought about it. I suggest we kill it. How do you suppose? Cut it out of Naruto? The doctor nodded. But isn't that a risky procedure? Kakashi asked. The doctor shook his head. As far as we can tell, the parasite is only connected to his spine via a layer of tendrils. These tendrils can be severed, removing the parasite from him while ensuring no harm comes to the spine where those tendrils are still connected. Those tendrils will likely die soon after and be absorbed by Naruto's body. But there's still some observation we need to do before we prepare such a surgery. We need to ensure that the parasite doesn't have a defense mechanism, such as toxins or the like, that can harm Naruto as a way of dissuading him from removing it. And if it does? Kakashi asked. The doctor sighed. Then we'll move from there. But let's remain optimistic. As far as we can tell, it has none of those defense mechanisms. When will you be able to attempt to remove it? Kakashi asked. Very soon, after we finish a few more tests. And so Naruto waited for some time. The doctors continued to study the strange parasite they had never seen before, wondering where Naruto could have received it from. They asked him questions such as where his travels had taken him, and if he recalled where he could have found it. He mentioned a recurring dream he had, explaining to them the tree, the forest, and about a ruined city of the future and the feeling of flying. They explained to him that these dreams could be from his stress as a shinobi, including his fear of the world falling into a new world war, and his own desire for freedom and to escape the reality he's in. They told him it could be a sign that he's simply overclocked from the stresses of being a shinobi, but Naruto told him that he didn't think that's what it meant because he didn't really feel stressed. It seemed too vivid as well. Regardless, the doctors came to the conclusion that they could remove it, and so after informing Naruto and getting his approval, they put him under for what they said would be an easy procedure. But as Naruto inhaled his last conscious breath of the anesthesia, he suddenly opened his eyes in a place he had never before witnessed. It was a large, sprawling desert wasteland, a tundra of sand. Despite it being a desert, it wasn't that cold. There was a small wind every so often, but only enough to stir the air. There was nothing there. Or so he thought until he turned around and saw what looked like a tree in the distance. Shining, glowing, a pillar of light with many branches. Naruto slowly began to approach it. He was unsure what he was looking at, but as he came close to it and placed his hand upon it, he felt and saw things. He saw worlds where he had become Hokage, worlds where he had become a village, a world where a dying Sasuke gifted Naruto his Sharingan, a world where a red-haired woman lived to take care of him, a world where the fourth Hokage survived and was his father. And he saw a world where he and Sasuke faced off against a pale-skinned man who used the moon as his weapon. "What is this?" he asked. "What is this?" he asked. "I call it Yggdrasil," another voice said, echoing through the wind. Naruto began to follow that wind toward the voice that spoke. Coming over a dune, he saw a man sitting by a fire. The man's face seemed tired and worn, despite his young age, being no more than 7 years older than Naruto was now. But somehow, it seemed that this man had lived a lifetime. "Yggdrasil?" Naruto asked. "It's just a name," the man said. "Others before me called this the Paths." He pointed up without looking. In the sky, long trails of light led from one end of the horizon to the Tree of Light. "I've also come to calling the parasite in our neck Nidhogg. No other name was given to it besides the source of all living matter, so why not?" Naruto looked down and saw the sand shift as a giant worm of light seemed to move, coiling up below the tree's roots. Perhaps the source of the tree's roots. The paths diverge and come from many places, but all the same they converge on one destination, reaching a single coordinate. The coordinate. Naruto sat down. "I don't understand." "Neither did I for quite some time," the man said. "I questioned what it was supposed to be, who I was supposed to be. Some called this thing God, others called it devil." "What did you call it?" Naruto asked. "I called it Eren." Silence fell over them as the wind seemed to slow its whisper, allowing the heat of the air to once more fill up. "Are you Eren?" Naruto asked. For the first time since Naruto had arrived, the man raised his tired, green glowing eyes to face him. "Yes, and you are Naruto, the one who found the founder." "How do you know me?" Naruto asked. "From the moment you connected with it. Connected with me, I knew who you were. Probably better than you know yourself. I've had no time and every time to learn about you before you arrived. A boy, treated like a devil, yet seeks peace and to be viewed as equal. Sounds like a familiar dream." Naruto sat there for a moment. "What does that mean?" he asked. "What it means is that currently your back is being ripped open by butchers who are going to try to remove the founder from you. But it can't be removed because it's you now. Everyone is going to die. Everyone but you." Naruto stood. "Enough of this. I don't have time for your games. What's happening?" Eren looked up. A long time ago, a very wise man said that so long as there were two men on Earth, war would exist. I can see your world is no different. Like my world, yours is ruled by a cycle of hatred and war, others viewing their enemies as lesser beasts beneath them, when we are all violent and destructive. I had hoped that after what I had done, the world would have been changed, that it would have forsaken its ways of wars, choking on the pain I left in the wake of my advance. What are you? Suddenly, a history 9 years long was forced through Naruto's mind, the history extending back further still for 1,000 years. All of it culminating to the point of breakage, where the world was trampled to dust, leaving 20% of all life on Earth to procreate as quickly as possible. Naruto fell back on his rear, his mind unable to comprehend what he just saw. "You're a monster," Naruto said as he backed away from Eren. Eren looked back to the fire. "Yes, I am." Naruto sat there, tears of terror forming in his eyes. Why? Why did you do something so horrible?" Eren then spoke. "For freedom, for safety. All I wanted to do was keep moving forward, but I was stopped in my tracks. I had expected such a thing. I didn't run or hide or flee. I kept moving forward. My friends made the decision to spare the world, and so now we know what happened." Eren looked at Naruto. "Frankly, I couldn't care less what happens to your world. But I've seen the world through your eyes, all of your eyes, and I'm disappointed in what I see. Even after peace is restored, it's destroyed again by humanity. I made a mistake in how I freed my world. I won't make the same mistake again while freeing yours." Suddenly, through the air, a jolt of electricity echoed, pulsing and moving toward the tree. It seems as though it's showtime. Naruto stood and ran at Eren. "I won't let you do it!" Suddenly, Naruto fell completely through Eren, as Eren appeared on the dune overlooking the tree. "That won't work, Naruto," he said. "You've been able to convince many a villain to alter their path and face the world with your vision. But can you somehow change my worldview as well? I highly doubt it." "I won't let you do this," Naruto said. "As if you have a choice. I discovered a long time ago that only the strongest will can control this power. Victory will go to whoever wants it more, and right now all I want is to finish what I started. The world would be better off without humans. I will set the world free. I will set you free from those who oppress you. After all," Eren looked back, "that's what you want, isn't it?" The moment the doctors began to make the incision, there was a jolt of electricity that ran through Naruto as his eyes opened, the same lavender look in them as Eren. With an explosion, that entire floor, as well as the one above and below, were destroyed. But the end of the devastation had not yet come. The body of a massive titan began to form around Naruto as his stature grew. Eventually, the entire building was eradicated by the sheer size of the titan that formed within it. By the end of it, a 400-meter-tall titan formed. The skies, dark with black clouds, cut off from moonlight, began to grow orange as the flames and heat of this massive monster, this titan, glowed from under it all. The monster began to move. Sirens began to blast over the village, like those announcing some sort of air raid or tornado. The sheer force of the transformation was like that of a tailed beast ball hitting the ground. It knocked out all power and shook the very earth from below everyone's feet. Hiruzen sat up in bed and ran to the window, looking out. There, he saw it. The monster standing in the distance. Its form had to be at least as tall as the Ninetales if it stood on its hind legs. It could be larger. Lights were out. Phone lines were cut. The only thing they had now for communication were wireless radios. Hiruzen grabbed his when presented. "Sitrep, now!" They began to explain that this monster was released from the center of the village, close to the hospital. Hiruzen struggled to get his armor on, requiring the help of others to get it all fastened. Hiruzen rushed outside as others began to make their way toward the creature. The beast was releasing a heat unlike anything they had ever felt. It was like a walking flame, as if the very being itself were made of smoldering wood. They couldn't get too close. "What is it?" Hiruzen asked. "It appears to be some sort of monster," they said. "Vaguely humanoid, devoid of skin." Despite that, looking up, they noticed that the beast possessed long, blonde hair. How it hadn't burned was a big question, but all the same, it was there. The monster began to walk about. It let out a roar and kicked at the ground, sending debris raining down upon the village. Kakashi appeared as Sakura and Sasuke did. "Do you guys feel that?" Sasuke asked. Kakashi nodded. "That's gotta be Naruto's chakra signature." They headed to the site of the battle. Within the paths, Naruto spoke. "Eren, you can't do this! Not again!" Eren looked back at Naruto. "Freedom, Naruto. I've been a slave before, so I know what it feels like to lack freedom. But listen, of all the ways I've freed myself, there was always one thing I couldn't free myself from. And now I realize it's not something anyone can free themselves from. That thing is fate. I am and always have been fated to be a destroyer. I am more than just the answer to the cycle of hatred. I am more than the counter to war. I am the cycle of hatred. I am war. Naruto began to speak. But Eren, humans make mistakes, but peace isn't something that comes without a cost. To that we agree, Eren said. No, I don't mean it like that. I mean that for us to see an end to wars on Earth, we have to fight for it. Once again, we agree, Eren said. Stop it. You know what I mean. Do I? Eren asked. You should know by now, Naruto, all that me and my people have suffered. For years, we were beat down, mistreated, used as weapons of war. And then, when we finally had the chance to be free, when the King Fritz died, we remained a threat to the world, and the world hated us. After the self-exile of King Karl Fritz, the good founder, my people were enslaved, put into camps, forced to labor just to survive, killed for nothing or worse, taken to paradise to be turned into titans against their will. This is what hatred creates. That's what hatred does. And the worst part, I feel like we deserve it after all we've done. I deserve it, but I'm not going to change my mind because I have a goal I wish to attain. Freedom, for me and for you. I will destroy that which hurts you and limits your freedom, and I will destroy those who stand in my way. Then I can return to my world and destroy all those who have warred against Eldia. There can only be peace when one kind of person remains. But Eren, that's wrong and you know it, Naruto said. Death is not the answer. You're willingly marching the planet and its inhabitants to destruction. What about all the children who have yet to live? Don't they deserve a chance? Eren then spoke. None of us deserve a chance. We all deserve to die. And so I will deliver that. Only those I deem fit will survive. And you may call that evil, and I agree. It is. I am a devil who is pretending to be a god. I am Eren, and nothing you can say or do will change my mind. The only thing that dictates what happens is the will to change. My will is greater than yours, not because you're weak, but because deep down, something in you exists that agrees with me, and its will is far stronger than yours. Naruto then understood what Eren meant. Within his own mind, he approached the Ninetales. Please, you have to help me. The Ninetales scoffed. Humans, what have they ever done for me? For what cause should I help those who imprison me? This Eren fellow is correct about me. I do support him, because I like him. I am the result of the cycle of hatred and war. I've been mistreated and enslaved for 1/10 of my life. I will not continue down this path. This Eren is selling freedom, and I'm buying. What about my freedom, Naruto asked. What about the freedom of all those in the village below? You are inconsequential, Kurama said. Your destruction, and the destruction of your village, the destruction of your species will do nothing but bring me pure and utter bliss. Naruto gripped his hair. He wasn't used to this. On most occasions, he could convince someone to look at things from his perspective. He could try to relate with them and show them his point of view, but what was so horrible about this was that both of these monsters knew Naruto's story and related, but yet they still didn't care. Naruto was sure that there was no way he could ever convince them. After all, Eren had already declared himself evil. This meant that he believed he either stood above the concept of morality, or he was willing to do what he wanted in spite of it. Having relived Eren's memories, Naruto knew not even Eren's own friends could stop him. What hope did he have? As the Titan continued its rampage, Shinobi tried various weapons against it, including breaking out weapons they had left in store since the Third Shinobi World War in preparation for the Fourth. Missile carriers began to fire their payload at the monster, which seemed to do significant damage. One of the missiles struck the thinnest area of musculature and skeletal structure, resulting in a severance at the waist. Bisected, the Titan fell to the ground, leaving only its legs and pelvic region still standing. The upper half fell to the ground like a fireball and incinerated everything and everyone below it. Sakura saw this and cried out, "Naruto!" She fell into Sasuke's arms, believing that their classmate had perished. Kakashi shook his head. "No, it's not done yet," he said. They looked back. They saw that from the waist of the upper half, a strange parasite emerged. It seemed to reattach itself to its legs, repairing the damage with swift regeneration. "Naruto, stop this!" Sakura cried out. And for a moment, the Titan's eye caught hers. Naruto, Eren, Kurama, they all witnessed the same sight. Eren let out a sigh and went to crush the three shinobi swiftly. "No!" Naruto shouted. Kurama and Eren felt this as it happened. Kurama was startled as suddenly the gate holding him was swung wide open. A chakra he had never felt before, stronger than anything he had ever measured, reached in and grabbed him, pulling him closer to Naruto. "You will help me!" he shouted. And in that moment, as the Titan reached out to grab Sakura, another hand gripped it. The Titan looked up to see that Naruto had, through sheer willpower, separated himself from the Titan, having taken the form of the Ninetales. The Ninetales, fully subjugated by Naruto's will, gripped the hand of the Titan before planting his fist into its jaw, knocking it back. The Titan went flying. It was slower than the Ninetales, and from the crashing of its fist against it, he could tell that it was somehow lighter as well. The Ninetales had made its way up to the Titan and proceeded to grip it. Naruto raised it above his head. The heat it generated felt as though Naruto had just slapped his hand on the top of an active stove. All the same, he lifted the Titan up. He needed to get it out of the village. It was at this point that the people saw the Ninetales. Fear flooded through the village, but Hiruzen understood what was happening. They prepared to fire on the Ninetales as well. However, Hiruzen ordered them to stop. The Ninetales, this time, was on their side. Naruto, reaching the end of the village, threw the Founding Titan over the wall toward a distant mountain. It laid there for but a moment before trying to get up. The Ninetales rushed at the beast, crashing into it and smashing through the mountain. Despite the sheer destructive might of the Titan, it stood no chance against the full might of a tailed beast. Throwing it once more, Naruto began to form a tailed beast ball, larger than Kurama had ever made. Releasing it, he fired it at the Titan. It was too slow to avoid it. Eren saw this, and with the same stoic glare he had always held, he accepted his fate. After all, he was still a slave to his fate, and alongside his fate of being a destroyer of worlds, he also knew he was destined to always be the villain slain. As soon as the ball hit, he was eaten up in the sheer explosive force. With nothing left of the Titan, Naruto knew that the battle was over. Forcing the Ninetales once more back into its cage, Naruto fell to the ground exhausted. How long he was out, he didn't know, but when he came to, it was daytime, and he was surrounded by his teammates, his mentor, and Hiruzen. Naruto would be returned to Konoha. There was no hospital anymore, and many had died in battle against the Founding Titan. But despite this, the people treated Naruto as a hero. Unlike before, the Ninetales had not been their destroyer, but their savior. It had defended Konoha from a threat not too unlike it. Naruto didn't feel like a hero though. He had been the one who'd brought the Founding Titan back to Konoha. However, Kakashi told Naruto not to worry, as he couldn't have known. Hiruzen then further tacked on that it was Naruto who defeated the Titan and protected the village. They were in his debt. This ending was all well and good, but something was missing. Why in the world did you even set up a dimensional crossing like this? Madara asked. Fu sat there and thought. I was testing something. Remember when I said that there was a war coming and we needed power and allies? I was testing someone. Naruto? Madara asked. Or do you mean that disappointing tailed beast ripoff? Fu looked back. Eren was easily defeated here due to circumstances he could not have predicted. The Ninetales appears to be one of the greater kaiju I've found among the many realms I've gained access to. Alone, the Founding Titan doesn't stand a chance. However, there is a world where Eren seemed more threatening. It's a world I never did finish viewing. I had thought it was a waste of time when I first began, but I've been thinking a lot more about it. Oh, why? Because the power that allowed Eren to cross to that world was not mine. It was perhaps greater than mine. And this Eren, the one I had neglected, was after it. I'm thinking it's about time I pay a little closer attention to this Eren Yeager. He may just be the ally we're looking for. And I'm gonna call that a wrap. I hope you enjoyed it. This really was a short little what if, but I suppose it works out for the best. Honestly, can you imagine what Eren would have done if he hadn't been stopped? Well, actually, one of the other tailed beasts probably would have just pummeled him, but apparently that's not true for every Eren. I wonder which one Fu is talking about. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, huh? Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to click that like button and subscribe. Don't forget to click the bell icon to be notified when other videos like this drop, and if you have cool ideas for other videos you might like to see in the future, be sure to let us know in the comments below. Be sure to check out our other videos from the channel, and until next time, peace out.